Hey, 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 hey. Hey, you guys, it's me. I'm back. I'm back here on the YouTubes. And I'm ready to unveil something new. You're here. That means you know. You know it's time. It's time for our brand new show. Are you ready? Because I'm ready. So let's do this. Let's slap a Grawlix on it. That's all fine and dandy, but you should be asking yourself this one very special question, and that is, hey, Mr. Kiefer, what are we slapping a Grawlix on today? That's a good question. Hey, before we get into what we're slapping a Grawlix on, number one, the show, we're going to talk about what the show is and what the show isn't, because there might be some confusion. What does this even mean? And then number two, the topic of the day comes from our own Randall Sylvie. You know, Randy from the Grawlix Podcast, grawlixpodcast.com. And his question to me was not actually intended for this video, but I'm going to throw it up here anyways, because this is a good question. And that is, how do you feel about Slabbing Comics? What does that even mean? We're going to get into it. But first, what is this show? Well, if you watched not all that long ago, I did the hashtag 30-day comic challenge. I did that challenge, and I enjoyed it. And I thought, you know, I kind of like doing these videos, so I'm going to continue doing these. Now, that doesn't mean that they're always going to be in the same format. I might talk about things that have to do with comics that I've read. Or I might have something to say about the comic industry at large. Or maybe I just might have something that I need to get off my chest. So, did I answer the question of what is this show without actually answering the question? I hope so. And you know, like all things Grawlix, this thing is not necessarily just the Jesse show. I'm pretty excited about this, so I will probably do the lion's share of these. But if Randy wants to slap a Grawlix on something, if Melanie wants to slap a Grawlix on something, they are going to slap a Grawlix like you wouldn't believe, because they are epic Grawlix slappers. So there we go. That's what the show is about for today. What are we slapping Grawlix on? Slabbing. Alright, so what is slabbing? Slabbing. Well, for most comic books, if you've got comics, you probably got them stored away somehow to keep them nice. And everybody does this a little bit differently. Slabbing is kind of like putting your comics in a comic bag and board, right? It's meant to protect the comics. What differentiates slabbing from just doing that is that slabs are done by a third party. So the CGC is probably one of the most well-known ones. And it's akin to having a third party seal it away so that it stays in kind of a stasis. It's like cryogenic freezing for your comics, except with less ice. It keeps it in that condition. And so what that does is it helps to ensure when you are selling it to other people who see a CGC grade, or, you know, there's others. I'm going to use CGC to kind of encapsulate, because that's the one I'm most aware of. Anyways, you send it off to them, or you go to a convention and you can have your books graded right there at a convention. And so it's like taking a comic that's bagged and boarded, and it's like putting it in a box. It's like having your toys. It's like having a Funko Pop that's in a box. You know, if I take a Funko Pop out of the box, I am obviously gambling with the idea that this thing's probably not going to be worth as much money as that one was. Now, how do I feel about it? I kind of went into this with Randy, and I am of two minds of it, okay? I get it. I definitely get it. I'm one of those guys that keeps a Funko Pop in the box if I think it's worth money. And that's why I would do it. Now, the problem that I have with it is that you gotta pay a third-party company money to tell you that your comic is worth something. And they might say that it's not worth something. And now you just spent a bunch of money on your comic to stay in this state, and now it's got a label on it that says it's not worth as much as you thought it was worth. This is a big risk. That is kind of just a real quick overview of how I feel about slabbing comics. I like it. I understand why people do it. If you want to sell comics. If you're not interested in selling comics, then I think it's kind of silly, and I think it's you just doing it. You know, if you think that it makes you feel good and that it makes you feel like your comic is protected, good enough. But for the most part, most people just bag them and board them if you want to keep them in good shape. So that is our first ever Slap a Grawlix on It. I hope you enjoyed this little quick rambling. Hope those of you who saw me in the challenge that were like, oh man, I missed that guy. Well, here I am. If you didn't miss me, tough. I'm back. Crazy eyes. See them? They're looking at you. We will see you next time. I don't know how often these will come out, but they will be semi-regular. What does that mean? I don't know what that means. Guys, it's been super duper fun to be back here. Missed ya. If you are interested in watching more of these, then you should like and subscribe and do all the VidMe things and the Vimeos and the Tumblrs. Do that stuff because it will help you know the next time that we take a video and we slap it up on YouTube.
This